Good morning. Welcome to Pilates this morning. We're going to start in seated. So we're going to be there a few minutes. So if you would prefer to have a chair to actually sit on, that's completely fine. You can sit on a chair. I'm going to sit on the floor. So coming into seated, and just find a seat that you feel really nice and comfortable and at ease in. So I'm going to sit cross-legged. You could have your legs straight, or like I said, you could have a chair. And just take a moment to settle into the space that you've chosen. And just notice how you arrive at your mat today. And just begin to bring awareness to your body. And see if you can find some length up through the spine, out through the crown of the head, allowing the shoulders to soften down the back. And then just begin to take your awareness to your breathing. Taking deep breaths, breathing into the tummy on the inhale and breathing out, allowing the tummy to come back in. You feel quite soft and released, finding length on each inhale and a bit of softness on each exhale. I'm just going to do a few gentle movements before we come into some centering prayer today. So let's begin by, on the inhale, shrugging the shoulders to the ears. And on the exhale, letting them go. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Breathing out through the nose or the mouth. Last one. And then let's very gently release the neck. So looking over one shoulder, back to center, looking over the other shoulder, back to center, and then ear to the shoulder. Without pushing it down, just let the weight of the head begin to very gently open out the neck, particularly if you are practicing now live or another time early in the morning. Back to center, and then just gently chin to chest, looking down, lengthening the back of the neck, still reaching up through the crown of the head. You can keep still, or you can do a little sway side to side if that feels okay. And then come back to center, look up. I just want you to invite a bit of free movement. So I'm going to come to a side profile because I think you'll be able to see me better. But just from your seated position, however you are, just move how it feels comfortable. So maybe arching back and stretching up through, maybe a bit of moving side to side. Be nice and gentle and just explore a bit of movement, a bit like we do in 4-point kneeling. This time just in our seated position, moving however feels good for your body. I always want to take the first few movements nice and slow in the morning. And just try moving in different directions and see how it feels. About 10 more seconds. And then find yourself back at center. And however you are seated, let's take some side stretches. Just reaching up and over, finding some length in the side body. One more to each side. And then just settling into that stillness now, and we'll come into our centering prayer practice. So for centering prayer, I want you to choose one word, a word that is kind of holy and special to you for prayer. I'm going to suggest the word Maranatha, which means come, Lord Jesus. It's quite good not to use a word in your first language because you don't have all the associative thoughts, but you don't have to use that one. You could use God, you could use Jesus, you could use spirit, love, peace, just whatever feels right for you this morning. I just choose one instinctively. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to have a 2-minute practice. It's something that's good to build up over time, but let's just do 2 minutes today. And I'm just going to invite you to relax the body. And then we're just going to be silent for that 2 minutes. And every time you find your thoughts wandering, I want you to come back to your sacred word. And you might have to return to it 100 times in that 2 minutes, and that would be completely fine. But it's a practice of noticing where you are as well with your thoughts. So it's just a case of returning. You wouldn't be expected to just be able to stay with that word for any length of time without a lot of practice. So let's just begin to welcome God into this time in prayer and speak a simple prayer out today. Holy Spirit, we welcome you into this space and time today. And just consecrate it. Consecrate our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our thoughts, all to you. Just that we would remember how close you are within us and all around us in this practice. And that we would just rest in you completely, in silence, in stillness, in solitude. You can keep your eyes open or closed, however you feel more comfortable. It's easier with eyes closed if that feels okay for you. And just breathing nice and naturally, keeping that length and attention in the body. I'm planting my hands down, palms down on my legs, helping me feel rooted and grounded. Sometimes palms up makes you feel more receptive, so you can just choose which feels better. And then we'll enter our 2 minutes of silence. Good, and then slowly opening your eyes if you've got them closed. And from here, we'll transition down to laying on our back on our mats. And whatever you chose for your word there, for that time of centering prayer, you can just continue to come back to that as much as you want to throughout the practice today. So finding your neutral spine on your back, just take a moment to feel through, weight through the head, the ribs, the pelvis, maybe a couple of pelvic tilts backwards and forwards to settle. Allow the shoulders to drop. Do a few breaths of Pilates breathing, so breathing wide into the rib cage now. Taking a breath in and gently out, just noticing the core, keeping it very gently connected, drawing the belly button down towards the spine. And then take the arms straight up above the shoulders, palms facing inwards. Allow the shoulder blades to drop down. And let's start with some arm scissors. So just inhaling, arms open. Exhaling, arms up. And just trying to stay with the feeling of the movement in the body. So just being fully present to what you're doing and to this practice. If you find yourself thinking thoughts rushing into the day, just come back to that word, whichever it was that you chose, and the feelings within your own body. Moving with your own breath now, just settling in. And then hold at the center. We'll add a single knee fold to those arm scissors. So inhaling to prepare. As you exhale, one arm goes forward, one arm comes back, and take a single knee fold. And then come back to the center and switch. If the arms and the knee fold just feel too much coordination for this time of day, you could place the arms back down by the sides now. So still wanting to maintain that neutral spine as you do this movement. So you want to feel that the spine stays nice and long. So that positioning in the spine and the pelvis just maintains how we began. So keeping the core gently drawing up and in. And if you need there to be more challenge, you can change the legs to the scissor movement instead of the knee fold movement. So from this position, just engaging the core a little bit more deeply and then switching one past the other as you go, making it a continual movement, which will load the core more, adding more challenge. That's just totally optional if you need it. I'm going to go back to the single knee fold version. You go with the one that feels right for you. Last one. And then if you're happy to, keep the arms up for one more movement and we're going to do knee drops. So for knee drops, we're doing a bit of pelvic stability. So keeping the belly button drawn down towards the spine and then just allowing one knee to drop out from the midline and then come back in without swaying the body in any way over to the sides. And so just to show you from a different angle, if that's difficult to see, you're lying down, but one knee is going out to the side, it's coming back in, legs in parallel. So I'm just showing it you in seated, in case that's a little bit easier to see, to follow. So if you imagine the entire body is just completely still, head, neck, pelvis, rib cage, shoulders, and then you're just dropping that one knee out to the side, keeping the core working to help maintain that position. And like I said with the arms, if you have enough of them being up in this position, just bring them down. Sometimes it's helpful even just to hold them on the pelvic bones at the front so you can feel if there's any swaying or lifting side to side. So that's another thing you can try. And then from there, we're going to bring the arms down if they aren't already. We're going to lengthen the left leg, and we're going to bring the right knee into a single knee fold, keeping the belly button gently engaged. You'll feel straight away that it's more work to hold this position. If it feels really uncomfortable with this leg straight, you can bend it back up. And we're going to take some simple single knee circles. And it's the same goal. So as we circle the knee round, we're holding, just gently stabilizing at the core, having that feeling of centering, allowing the shoulders to stay soft, breathing to stay fluid. It's always good not to do these too quickly, and we're just stirring the thigh bone in the hip socket. And we'll go opposite direction. So the movement's reflecting our practice today, this idea of centering, of staying in the middle, in the center, staying grounded even when there's movement going on around us. And that's the fruit of centering prayer as well, or one of them. And then once you're back at center, swap legs, taking your time. And then continue your circles. The centering prayer just helps ground us in the reality that God is always present, and that we can rest in that and be still in that, keep our attention fixed on that and in the present moment. Slightly different to breath prayer, when we're really going over and over something in our minds and trying to stay with that truth. Centering prayer is more accepting the reality and staying with the reality of God's presence and God's love. So even though they have a similar feel, it is a slightly different intention. Opposite direction with your circles. Back to center, place back down with both the knees bent, and then hug them in towards the chest, just allowing the back to open out, and take a few circles, easy circles around. You can see on screen that my dog Barney is marginally waking up, but I think he's still going with the idea that it's too early to be awake. Opposite direction. A giant pile of fluff in the corner on the chair is actually alive. Look, there he is, actual movement. Good morning, Barney. And then coming back to center, let's hold on by the right leg, lengthen the left leg away. No life yet, he's just chosen a different place to be asleep. And so maybe just checking, noticing where your thoughts are, just being aware of it, using that word that you chose at the beginning. Yeah, let's swap sides. And then hugging that other knee in. Final time, just maybe separating the knees a little bit and circling them, holding on to the knees. You can go in either direction, so it's kind of like you're cutting a circle in half up through the middle. And your hands are guiding your knees, so the legs feel heavy in the hip sockets. It's quite passive. You're more controlling it with the arms than making the legs do it. You're not putting any strain into the hips. Go the opposite direction. And they're kind of the size of your circle, probably going to depend on the length of your arms. You've got really long arms, you might be able to get your knees a bit further away. And then let's just take a giant stretch. So feet down one at a time, lengthen arms, lengthen legs, and take 2 really big, deep, full breaths all the way in, all the way out. And then from there, let's transition onto our side and come up into seated. And we're just going to do a nice loose, free couple of movements. So I really like doing these. We'll bend our knees up, take the feet quite wide, and then I'm going to lean back into my hands wide behind me. So from a side position, be like this. And then from here, just let the knees go side to side as much as is comfortable. When you get to the furthest point, you'll probably feel a bit of a stretch in the outer hip. And keep the belly button drawn in a little bit. And then come back to center, and we'll take a bit of a release stretch forwards. So taking the legs out to the sides just to where it feels comfortable for you. Find some length and lift up and out through the crown of the head, so there's that length in the spine. Knees can be bent, get into whatever position you need to. And then I'm just going to gently flex at the hip joint. So we're not rounding through the spine. We're keeping a lifted chest, long spine, so we can still breathe, and then just settle wherever you are. Good. Coming out of these stretches more quickly if you need to. And then gently coming up, bring the soles of the feet together, knees out to the side. And if you would prefer, you can have straight legs. And let's do a supported spine stretch forward. So hands onto the legs, shoulders nice and relaxed. And then from there, nod the chin to the chest. And just gently round the spine forward. Scoop the tummy in so you can have that flexion in the spine now. And just settle where you can kind of be loose and released. And then rebuilding back up. And we're just going to take a movement all the way on our front. And we're going to do like a gentle swan dive prep. So just coming around and onto your front. Going to come all the way around, creating that fork shape with the upper body. So elbows are bent, straight line from elbow to shoulder, from elbow to hand. And then head down, shoulders relaxed. Gently drawing the abdominals up and in towards the spine. Take a breath in. As you exhale, slide the nose along the mat, shoulder blades down, lift through the breastbone. And then releasing back down. And then just finding that length and lift in the upper spine. If this is the kind of movement you do a lot, and you do a lot of extension and your spine feels nice and limber this morning, you can engage the core a bit more deeply and you can continue that movement, getting a higher lift. Don't recommend you do it unless it's just something you normally do, it's in your practice. But if you want to and you just feel that you want that extension higher, then you can take it. But just be really aware of your lower back, particularly in the morning. You need a good bit of core if you're doing that. I still want you to get this first bit as well, with the shoulder blades coming down the back first. Keep the belly button towards the spine. Give the shoulders a chance to relax and release each time. Last one. And then from there, let's bend our knees and transition up into 4-point kneeling. So hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the pelvic bones. Just take a moment to find your position, looking down, sliding the shoulder blades down the back, pushing away through the ground, particularly through the little fingers. And then just take a few pelvic tilts, moving very gently, and then finding that center position where you feel that you're in neutral. And then from there, we'll just take our minute of free movement. So moving however you want for that first minute. Moving instinctively and intuitively. If you're doing any extending of the spine, just be aware, keeping the core just gently connected. Ten more seconds. And then circle back in center, circle back into neutral. And then we'll just do a bit more stability work, that bit more centering work. So once you're ready, we're going to begin to lengthen the left leg out behind and then just gently lift it to hip height as a maximum, just lifting it up, placing back down and switching, holding our core and pelvis nice and still and stable. You can keep going exactly like that, just alternating each time, or you can add the opposite arm in if you want to, so lengthening the opposite arm at the same time, still holding the position nice and still. Make this the last one, and then push back into rest position, sitting on the heels. Circle the wrists a couple of times, and then just settle. Take a few moments coming back to your word that you chose at the beginning. And then back into 4-point kneeling. Let's run through our familiar stretches. So let's start with just 3 cat stretches. So from your neutral position, tuck the pelvis under, round through the spine, and then tuck the chin, feeling the spread of the shoulder blades, the lengthening of the neck, and then release back to neutral. And then 2 more. From here, lengthening the right leg out behind you, hooking the toes under, either holding still or inviting just a bit of gentle movement backwards and forwards. Just to say, my neck isn't always in the greatest position doing this because I'm looking forward quite a lot to speak to you, but you just want to look straight down and keep that length through the neck. And then swap legs. And we'll swap legs one more time. And lengthening, taking across the body. Look towards the foot. Take a big breath in and out. And the same to the other side. Good. And then let's transition up to standing. So from here, gently hooking the toes under, lifting the hips, keeping the knees very bent, and stretch back, pedal the feet out a few times, just being gentle, and then walking the hands back, gently rolling up through the spine. And we'll finish with the roll down movements in a minute, but we'll move through just some upper body and lower body stretches first. So let's come into a wide squat position, hands on the hips, relax the shoulders, and then from there, just coming down and up with some wider squats. Okay there, Barney, just standing around. Good, core drawing in, relaxed shoulders. And then from this wide position, core drawing in, I'm just going to get you to bring your hands onto your legs. So you're really wide legged, core drawing in. And we're going to do some shoulder drops. So we're just going to drop one shoulder forward with a bit of a rotation and then bring it back up, dropping forwards, coming back up. Let's do one more of these to each side. Good, and then bringing my feet back in. We'll do some narrow squats. So core drawing in gently, sitting the weight back and pushing up. And again, you can just do a mini squat, so you're quite high, like so. Or you can have some real depth to your squat, or anywhere in the middle. Just make sure the knees don't go over the toes and keep length through the spine. So we're not rounding out here, whichever depth of squat you're choosing, it's the same thing. And back into standing. We'll do some standing clam. So we're going to come up either so you're resting and pivoting on the toes, or you can take the foot all the way off. So up, it's up to you. Breath in, and as you exhale, just open the knee. You've got a little bit of a crack there in my hip this morning. Good, so again, working on that centering, holding, and just gently keeping our line. Last one. And then swapping sides again, just choosing, using the whole of the foot to help you balance, keeping the toe down or lifting them all the way up. And again, you're not really allowing the hips to move too much. Last one. Releasing down, soften the knees into a little bit of a bend and just take a few rotations around. Into center and then into your side bend, lengthening, keeping the core working. If you want to deepen it, you can take the hands up to the ears, and that will give you a bit more depth, a bit more work into the side body. Good, back to center. And then let's do our roll down. So you can either just do them, or you can come out to the plank position. So that's up to you. So, but we're all going to take a breath in. And then as you exhale, look down, nod the chin to the chest. Gently engage the core. Soften the knees as much as you need to. Pause at the bottom, take a breath in. And as you exhale, slowly restack, keeping the weight centered. Pelvis comes forward first and lengthening up. Keep going with them, or you can add your plank in from there if you want to. So you're just simply walking out then. Hold your plank for a breath or two. Lift the hips, stretch, walk the way back. Pause, make sure the head, neck and shoulders have relaxed if you've done that, and then rebuilding. Make the one that you're on, the last one, coming up to standing, and then we'll do 3 big energizing breaths. So feet out wide, breathe in and up, stretch through the fingertips out and down. Step the feet back in, spread the weight evenly, big toe, little toe, and heel. Relax the back of the knees, lengthen between the ribs and the hips. Allow the shoulders to drop down the spine. And then just bringing your hands over your heart or into a prayer position. Just take a few gentle breaths, coming back to your centering prayer word. And then just release the arms down by the side. And you're all done. So thank you so much to those of you who joined me to practice today, and everybody who's done it afterwards. And I will see you soon.